Okay, I'm already on the way back from the river. Not much down there except Japanese knotweed and yomogi, and wintercress here and there. This was just one. We got a little visitor. This was just one plant. Oops, just dropped some of it too. Um, Looking robust, so I just grabbed a handful. Um, I want to show you how this floret has a similar form, and what I'm getting at here is it's a trait of the mustard family. Let's see, I just got to put these in my pocket, and we're going to take a look at this garlic mustard. Here's one. See, it's the floret, it's got those buds, so that's like a broccoli or a Rob. And you can eat that part. I don't really go much beyond that point. I think some people do. Um, Fortunately, people are learning all kinds of things about these invasive plants, how to use them. Then, this is what I want to focus on now. We saw it before, but let's give it some attention. See those hairs along the stem and on the, especially the underside of the leaf. Those are like needles, and they're full of formic acid, and it's not going to have the same damaging effect as a rose or raspberry or something like that, that'll grab you and poke or tear at the skin and really hurt. This you likely won't even notice it if it stings you. The hairs are made of silica, like a basically like a small glass needle, and it injects the formic acid. And then quite often it's not until later down the trail or even later in the day that you notice the stinging. And by the way, I can touch it with my hands because my fingers are callous. Even now that they're all wet, just doing all the gardening lately, my hands are pretty tough. So I can grab it, but I do try to keep it mostly just in contact with the pads of my fingers, because if I get it in between in the tender areas there, I will feel it. Or if I handle tons of it, I'm likely to feel it. But I do okay. I just pinch it off and throw it in the bag or basket or whatever. It's already getting a little tall, so rather than take this whole plant, which is going on 10 inches tall, I'm just going to reach for the top tender part, a little tough. So yeah, again, this is already a little old, but even if that much is too tender, you can just take the tip. There's quite a bit here. It's got this coarse veining, sharp teeth. I'll show you a little bit more over here. We're just walking along the edge of this little trail to the river, and it starts to stand out a little bit. I'm sure it's hard to make it out with the camera, but it starts to stand out a little bit because it's darker than most of these plants around. We got some pale grasses, and we got the mugwort is quite pale, and well, this one's darker. These little purple flowers, the ground ivy. So it's kind of between the, oh, here's another mustard. Another little cress. And then here's the nettle here. forest green colored. And you know, that green color is indicative of the nutrition and especially chlorophyll properties. So one, I really like the smell of nettles. One main reason that people focus on nettles is kind of like a nutritional supplement. So one thing is, this time of the year, especially after going through the winter with less fresh produce, uh, the body loves this kind of nutrition. These leafy green vegetables. That's what we need right now. So we can go around and pick these tender shoots. As it gets bigger, it becomes less appropriate for vegetable use, but we can still pick it and dry it out and use it to make tea, which would be done by the long infusion method typically, because we want to get the minerals and as much nutritional content out of here as possible. So rather than just steeping a little bit for a few minutes, we typically would do a long infusion, meaning you put a bunch of plants in, say, a ball jar, and then put the hot water on and cover it up, and then let it sit for half the day or overnight, and then that way you give time for the minerals to come out, and it can be used as a mineral substitute. Typically, it's not harvested once it flowers. After flowering, it produces seed, which can also be used as a nutritional substitute. But generally speaking, we don't use it when it's actually flowering, which isn't big, showy, colorful blossoms. They're just little green flowers. So you might have to look closely to double check that it is in flowering stage. But you'll see it once you see the buds or any sign of flowering happening towards the tops of the plants. Then you just want to hold off on harvesting it until maybe you want the seed, or often there's an autumn flush, especially if it gets mowed off or something. It'll send up more shoots later on in the season, so it does reappear. But mostly this is the time of the year where we look for the nettles to eat.